Hog Sty.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hog Sty. My name is Alex East. I'm here once again. I'm just kidding. Alex is out again. He's abandoned us for the second week in a row. We think he's in New Zealand. Is that where he is?
New Zealand is where he is touring.
Hope we didn't blow your cover. He clearly cares more about his family than us, and personally, I'm offended. I was offended last week. I'm continuing to be offended this week. But that is what it is. How was your New Year's, Mr. Dave?
Well, New Year's was the initial party was disbanded because everybody in the family wound up getting sick after Christmas. So
You mean
I'm
like physically, like got the flu or something kind of sick?
actually my daughter and my son-in-law got the flu itself.
Oh, wow.
Me and my wife had got a cold. My grandson got a cold. My other daughter got a cold. Her boyfriend got a cold. My mother got them coming down getting sick just yesterday, and my sister-in-law was sick. It's just all through the family. So we were like, we're not getting together. Just stay at your homes. So
I hate New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is an introvert's nightmare. It really is. Because you have to go out and, be around humanity, and I don't like that. So I've always stayed in on New Year's for one way, shape, or fashion, whether it's at my house, at my parents' house, with family or whatever. What I don't like is hopping around to various things in other people's houses and to dinners. I hate that.
I say that's the thing. We've always kept it a core, small group, just immediate family. It wasn't some massive breakout party to where you're shoulder to shoulder and someone's getting drunk over here, someone else is trying to climb up on the roof half naked because they're drunk over there. And
I can't handle that. I can't handle any of that. But so where I'm going with this is I almost committed a violent felony last night. This is where I'm going with this. So I was by myself here last night because the boys were out and whatnot, and which is fine. It was, again, I'd almost prefer it. But so my little Houston area suburb has, in the past couple years, changed the laws regarding the use of fireworks in residential neighborhoods. They put it to a vote of the citizens. I voted against the use of fireworks in town,
right,
because I don't want morons with fireworks. I was in the minority, unfortunately, and so now people can shoot fireworks. And so these idiots across the street from me, and if you're listening, yes, you're an idiot, and the idiots down, couple of doors down from me, both not only decided to shoot fireworks off, but kept doing it until 12:30 in the morning, which really irritated me. At one point, I was walking out there to to commit a violent felony. And I thought better of it, and I thought it's not worth me losing my license to practice law over this. And so I let it go. But I will not let this go next year. And it's like I hate the fireworks because, the dogs hate the fireworks. People have little kids are trying to sleep at this point. You don't know what people have to do in the next morning, and you're going to be a drunk moron because there was like 10 cars in the street over here, and same thing down there. And you guys think it's okay. So just as a public service for everybody, please don't shoot fireworks that late. If you're going to do it at 10 o'clock. That's reasonable on a holiday. But 12:30 at night, it needs to be over, really. But I read the stat. I got so mad. I read the local ordinance about this. Local ordinance says they can shoot them off till 1 in the morning. So I was like stuck. I was literally dialing the police, and I thought, let me read this first.
Right.
And unfortunately didn't. So, but I will hold this against these idiots down the street, and I will let them know at some point that they're idiots. So that was my New Year's.
Well, I mean, you have noise canceling headphones, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm wearing my Marshall headphones right now, and as Dave can see, and they are noise canceling, but that is not the point.
No, I get your point.
I shouldn't have to bend. I don't bend to other people, Dave. You know this about me.
I get that. And unfortunately, I mean, we live in a world where sometimes you're forced to have to.
I do not.
I do not.
I do not. That is not me.
Because I have no bail money to get you out next year. So
you're in Pennsylvania anyway. I mean, you can't help me. I'm on my own. But I actually did go outside, and I was walking down the street to these people, and I had to stop myself
Right.
Yeah, because I have done that before. A couple of years ago, I walked all the way around the corner to stop them. It's like, this is not going to go well if I do this. Let me go in the house, and I felt ashamed for not
Well,
going out and committing a violent felony.
what you could do is you get yourself a pressure washer. You put it at the curb, and when it goes off, they set everything off because I'm sure they're probably in the front yard. You could see them, right?
The ones right near me, yes. The other ones were
So
no.
that's where you take a high pressure washer and you just start spraying right in that direction and start screaming "Happy New Year" going like that, and then they'll be like, "Hey, what are you doing? We're trying to sell these fireworks. I'm celebrating. What are
I'm
you
doing
talking
my
about?
celebrating. That's not a bad
This
idea. I mean, that would
this
be.
is what I do."
I'm also a very petty person, and that would be appropriately petty.
There you go. In fact, you can even get the pressure washers to where they with the soap dispensers on it. You can get the soap in there and put color dye in it, so it comes out red or whatever color you want. So you look like you're being festive with it at the same time. And
If
the
all
band
these
starts
people
spraying
and
everything.
all their cars and their sidewalks happen to get sprayed, listen, I'm just celebrating like you are.
Yeah, that's it, man.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, that's petty enough. I'm willing to spend money on petty things.
There you go.
That's not bad. So it's a public service, everybody. Please don't do this. And if you have had problems with your neighbors, let us email us or tweet at us or something, or put comments in the comment section about how much you hate your neighbors in the fireworks. I saw somebody on our comment section today because I didn't work today. We're recording this on the 1st. And so I actually had time to read the comments. And somebody said they were shooting gunfire, like literal actual guns in the air. No, it wasn't in our comment section. Actually, it was in a group text with some schoolmates I had.
Oh, okay.
And somebody's literally shooting magazines into the air, which is, by the way, a felony.
Oh yeah, because Lord
you're gonna
knows
get
where
it.
all they're gonna fall.
You're gonna get a negligent homicide charge. If somebody dies. But that would be worse than mine. But I want to hear about it. If you're mad about your neighbors for doing this, let us know. We can file a class action lawsuit or something. Who knows? Well, one other group of people.
And by the way, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Yeah, whatever. Happy New Year. The Grinch over here, me. One other team that's not happy, of course, is the Atlanta Falcons, because the Atlanta Falcons lost a hard-fought game with our Washington Redskins, 30-24. So we're going to talk about this because this is actually an important game, and I thought it showed a lot. Let's just knock stats out here real quick, and we'll get into the game. So stats-wise, Jane Daniels was 24 for 36, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 100.1. 24 for 36 is about 2/3, so that was his passer rating. A little under. No, that's exactly 2/3, actually. He was also leading rusher, 16 for 127 yards rushing, 7.9 yards per carry. Brian Robinson is 13 for 60. Chris Rodriguez, 5 for 16. Olamide Zacchaeus, 1 for 8. Jeremy McNichols, 1 for 5. Leading receiver was Olamide Zacchaeus, 8 for 85. 1 touchdown. Zach Ertz, 6 for 72, 2 touchdowns. James Crowder, 3 for 25. John Bates, Chris Rodriguez both had 1 reception. Brian Robinson, 2. Terry McLaurin was only 1 for 5. Jeremy McNichols, 2 for 5. On the Falcons, let's do Washington defense here real fast. Quan Martin was the leading tackler, amazingly enough. 8 tackles, 7 solo. Michael Davis.
And 1 interception as well from Martin.
Yeah, I hadn't got to the interceptions yet, but yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Michael Davis somehow in stats that don't reflect his actual performance was the next with 6 tackles. Bobby Wagner was 6. Goes down from there. Interception was 1 to Claude Martin. Tressway was 3 for 153. It just ruins a Tressway game, all the success. Atlanta, Michael Penix was 19 for 35, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 71.5, sacked twice. Bijan Robinson was 17 for 90, 5.3 yards per attempt. Drake London was the leading receiver in the game for both teams, 7 for 106, no touchdowns, 15.1 yards per reception. Kyle Pitts was 4 for 44. They had a bunch of fumbles. Caden Ellis had 10 tackles, 7 solo, 1 pass defended. And then the interception was Caden Ellis. So that is stats. So let's start on offense. Just Dave, your thoughts about the game in Washington's offense generally.
I think offensively, I mean, What more can you say about Jaden Daniels? I mean, he clearly again took this team on his shoulders again. I mean, granted, Brian Robinson Jr. was a little more effective with the run game, averaging 4.6 yards a carry. But I still think Chris Rodriguez, your boy, is the better runner going forward. But we'll talk about that more
Yeah,
later.
let's stop you right there too, because there was a distinct difference between the Washington's running game in the first half versus the second half.
Right.
As an example, at halftime, Robinson was 6 carries, 23 yards, which is less than 4 yards per carry. Jaden Daniels 2 for 24, and it was by the end of the game, that it got better. Even at the end of the third quarter, he was only 8 for 36.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. But I think right now the biggest standout on this offense, and he has been for like the last month, is Olamide Zaccheaus. Aside from a bad drop on a deep crosser in this game, overall for the last month, he has been a great number 2 receiver for this team. He's gotten 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He was crucial in that Philadelphia game. Again, he was crucial with big catches again in this game. Every time that there's a situation where Daniels needs to be bailed out, Zaccheaus or Ertz has been the guy there, and Zaccheaus lately has just been lights out. He is a guy that I liked a lot in the offseason. He started off a little slow, wasn't really getting reception. Noah Brown was ahead of him, obviously for obvious reasons. He had those 2 bad drops on the punt game. One of them he lost against Philly. So he was a bit of a rough start, but right now Zaccheaus is my biggest standout. And Ertz, that touchdown catch at the end, at the end of the game, earned him $750,000.
It was also a great effort by him to make that catch.
And it happened right in front of me when I was in the stands. And at first, it looked like he dropped it. So I'm sitting there just like waiting for the official. It was a touchdown call on that one right there. But it's all around this offense and Jaden Daniels. Even when Terry McLaurin was shut out the way he was, he still finds a way to get it done. And guys like Zaccheaus has been the guy stepping up for him for the last month. And I think that does spell a bit of a problem for teams going forward in the playoffs. Think when we take out McLaurin, we try to isolate Daniels, then we have a chance of stopping the offense. Well, hold on, timeout. Zach Ertz, he may not be a yak guy, but he's still a guy who's trusted in the receiving game. And now you have Olamide Zaccheaus, who can break one long if need be. So
offensively, and there's been a couple games where McLaurin has been limited in his impact. Yes. Even last week, he had the 86-yard reception. Was that last week?
That was in Dallas. That was against
the Dallas game. Yeah, I just did I was looking back at that game. Even in that game, he was fairly shut down except for that play.
Right.
And I was concerned when Noah Brown went out whether anybody would actually step up and be a legitimate number 2 target, and clearly Zaccheaus has done that. Yeah, but I don't even know. I don't even know what to say about Jaden Daniels anymore. And we're not. I told you, we said many times, we are not homers here at all. Right. But the guy just keeps coming through for his team over and over and over again. He's had a couple bad games this season. I would say less effective games.
Right.
And maybe 1 or 2 bad ones, I'd guess. But he rebounds, and every time in certainly in the past, month or so, 3 weeks, every time his team has needed him, he's come through.
And the one thing that's probably the most impressive with Jaden Daniels is no matter the situation and no matter what mistake he got them previously making, he is constantly cool, constantly level-headed, and he's always looking forward to the next play. He doesn't hold on to anything negative. And when the pressure is the strongest or the most or the pressure, he's feeling the pressure the most in the game, he seems to be so much more relaxed. Tony Dungy made a comparison when you were talking about what quarterbacks remind you of Jaden Daniels in the past. He went all the way back to Joe Montana, and I'm thinking, well,
physically they're not the same at all, but from a mental standpoint, I sort of get his point.
And that's exactly what I was thinking, because in any game where the pressure is mounting against him, he does exactly. The players talk about him almost exactly how like John Taylor and Jerry Rice and Roger Craig talked about Joe Montana. Like in that Super Bowl against Cincinnati, we got in the huddle for that game-winning drive. When they got into the huddle for that final drive, I think they went like 92 yards, 96 yards, whatever it was. When he got in that huddle, guys were just like nervous and tense. And he goes, "Oh, look, there's John Candy up in the booth up there."
Yeah, that's a real famous comment.
Exactly.
But it's like the idea that the guy could be that cool that go, oh, hey, look, there's John Candy, and have it, and then go out and score the game-winning
Yeah.
touchdown.
It
It's
just
like,
gives such a presence of calm in the huddle. And then when he said that, guys were just like, "Oh, we're winning this game. There's no doubt about it." And the guys feel the exact same way with Jaden Daniels. And it's just and me, I'm used to disappointment, or we all are used to disappointment. How is this team going to fail us now? What's going to happen? Oh, here we go. Here it's Washington again in this game. And the final drive when we got the ball in overtime, I'm thinking, oh, game's over. We won.
well, so
I don't say that very often.
I think what people a lot of times forget about quarterbacks, college quarterbacks, if they can't read the field in college from the pocket, they're generally speaking not going to be able to do it in the NFL.
Right.
It's not really a skill that a couple have developed. Like Josh Allen's gotten a little better at it, and obviously a lot of it's situational. And clearly Daniels is in a much better situation than anybody Washington has brought in over the years, because of what stuff we've talked about a million times. But what was obvious from one, Daniels is experienced. He wasn't one of these guys like Dwayne Haskins really had one full season, for example.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Dwayne. But that was really he was there for 3 years, but really only played one. Jane Daniels played a bunch of seasons and a bunch of games. He was already experienced, but if you watched him, he was not. Let's call it the Johnny Manziel effect. Johnny Manziel could run a lot by college standards. That guy, because I live in Texas here, and everybody was gaga over him, and I kept telling people he's not going to be good. And the reason was he didn't even make one read half the time. Right. He would it was like backyard football with that guy. He was a guy who could not stay in the pocket, read the field quickly and process it instantaneously and make read, and then run if he has to later. That is what Jane Daniels was good at LSU. And his number of targets were more limited because he had 2 first-round draft picks, as receivers and all that. But it was obvious that he could read the field quickly and process and make a decision, make a pass. And then he was not like, again, a Manziel runner who's just going to run all over everything. It was always kind of running for a purpose. It was on a scramble. It was a design. It was an RPO, design keeper. We've seen those. But he was always a pro quarterback. What I did not expect was him to be so calm and collected. I'm glad you brought up the Montana thing. That just didn't ever occur to me until you said it. That is, it's not fair to compare him to one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. It's not.
Right.
But he does seem to have that same kind of mentality. He doesn't get stressed. He doesn't get excited. So it appears to us on the cheap seats.
Right.
And he can just do it. I never would have guessed Washington would have, 4 game-winning drives in a year. They're the team that people do that to.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So I just can't say enough. And we talked about this last week a little bit, but I continue to believe that he ought to at least be in the discussion for league MVP.
Absolutely.
We'll see what happens this coming week. But
if you put his numbers against Lamar Jackson, they're comparable.
Well, Lamar has got a quarterback rating of 120. But yes, it's in the ballpark. It deserves to be mentioned as a candidate. I'm not advocating. I don't know about you. I'm not necessarily advocating that he should get it. I think he ought to be competitive for it, and he hasn't been mentioned at all.
Right. Well, see, my point with the Lamar Jackson thing is the fact that Lamar Jackson is supported by a great running game, good receivers, great tight end, good offensive line, and a good defense. I'm sorry, but for as good as that Jaden Hurts has been for Philly, if you put Jalen Daniels on that Eagle team, even as a rookie this year, He would have won the Rookie of the Year 3-4 weeks
Because
ago,
the thing
and
about
he
Jalen Hurts,
absolutely would have been an MVP.
Jalen Hurts is not a great pocket passing quarterback.
No.
He's way better than Johnny Manziel, but he is kind of a athleticism first, and he has gotten a lot better as a quarterback for sure. When he was at Oklahoma, I mean, I watched this film because who was the receiver we had Washington had from Oklahoma? One of them, I can't remember. He's gone now, but obviously, watched a lot of Jalen Hurts film. I was convinced that when he was at Oklahoma, he wasn't an NFL quarterback at all. He has gotten better to his credit. He got better at Alabama, but Oklahoma, no. But Jalen Hurts is not. I don't think he can read the field and be a pocket passing quarterback quite as good as Jane Daniels can.
No, absolutely not. I agree. I mean, one of the biggest problems one of the biggest criticisms on Jalen Hurts is the fact that once he takes his read to 1/3 of the field, he rarely ever comes back to the.
That's right.
Other
That's
third.
exactly right.
Rarely ever comes across the
Daniels field. can go all the way across. But usually he makes a very good anticipatory read. You were talking about the interception to Caden Ellis. In this game, Dave, and the gist of it. And I think you said you saw a breakdown of that play.
Chase Daniels, former quarterback. Yeah. Chase Daniels broke down his game, and one of the breakdowns he had was the interception that Caden Ellis had. The Falcons disguised what their defense was going to be using a defensive position that they used earlier. They disguised, they used or gave a hint of man coverage. Caden Ellis is going to be blitzing. He's going to be blitzing in the our left tackle side on that side, whatever. Like the was a 3-hole right through there, coming up through that gap right there. So he was cheating up, and right after so when Jaden Daniels had the motion, he recognized man coverage, so he understood with the routes coming, he knew who was going to be open in the zone of where he was going to be looking at, which I believe was going to Ertz at that time. So as soon as he snapped the ball, he didn't notice Caden Ellis taking that step back because Caden Ellis took a step forward. And he kind of hung there for a brief second before he actually came back into that zone. So as soon as he saw that split second, he went to go release it. But as soon as he was in his motion to release it, Caden Ellis had already stepped back right into that zone where he was going to be throwing it to. And it looked like a really bad pass, but it was actually he made a wrong read off of the the Falcons confusing him. So they confused him effectively. Caden Ellis dropped back. He was right there, boom, interception.
Well, the reason why I thought that was important to mention is that it seems like on that play, what he did is, I mean, this is going to sound kind of dumb, but he actually processed the play a bit too fast.
Yes.
That's sort of what happened there. And so it was clearly a mistake, bad play, misread. I give him a tiny bit of credit for at least making a quick decision, even though it was the wrong one. He should have waited.
Well, he took what he saw earlier in the game, and he processed it this is going to be open. But
so
like
it was a mistake, and it was a bad read. But
correct.
What he was doing, he did quickly. He just and processed the field. He just didn't anticipate that the Falcons were going to disguise.
Correct.
They were going to set him up.
Yes.
With the prior play. So that was that play. Okay. In terms of what else we have to say about the offense here?
Our offensive line the last 3 weeks has been bad in terms of pass protection.
And it must be said that Tyler Biadasz went out, and he
was out, and Dieter was in.
And Dieter sucks donkey balls,
right.
Just for the record.
And Lucas was hurt again, and I believe Wiley was in and out of the game.
Trent Scott was in there for part of the game. Yeah, that's never a good thing. Listen, Washington's offensive line, I wouldn't say they're terrible, but they're almost terrible. It's just not a good offensive line. Even in Brandon Coleman got beat, if you noticed.
Yep.
In this game, none of them are particularly good. I think if Jaden Daniels was not so mobile and shifty, that he'd been crushed. It would have been a David Carr level of sacks this year.
And what was it? I believe it was No, it wasn't the Eagles.
Well, David Carr had 76 sacks in
Yeah, right. Yeah.
2002 or 3 or whatever year it was.
Yes. And I believe it wasn't the Eagles game. I forget which game it was where he had 8 sacks. He took 8
Yes.
sacks.
Yeah.
And it was like another additional like 4 or 5 quarterback hits. And a lot of them, well, I'll say a lot of them, but quite a few of them were really much on Jaden Daniels because either he didn't recognize where the blitz was coming or he tried to extend the play too much or whatever. So, I mean, he did take some bad sacks on that. But the thing is the fact that the pressure was there. He didn't do his normal thing of eluding it, scrambling out, throwing the ball away to avoid that rush like he'd been doing most of the year. So,
all right. I think we said what we're going to say about the offense in this game, probably, unless you have anything else.
nope.
Okay, so defensively, I don't even know where to start with this defense. I mean, they cannot control a runner. They can't stop a runner from running above. What am I trying to say here? Every running back for every team they faced recently has run one above his year average, and two at a clip that makes a significant impact on the game.
Yes.
Bijan Robinson did that again.
Right.
And frankly, they should have gone back to him more probably. It's a significant weakness, and I think there's that's probably what's going to hurt them the most in the playoffs. I would say is their total inability to stop, have any impact on the run, and just like after this week's game, they are second to last. They're ranked 28th, tied for 30th in yards per attempt, opposing party yards per attempt, 4.8. Only teams they're better than are the Saints and the Panthers.
Well,
that is
actually,
not a playoff team.
Well, actually, in the last 3 games, they are tied for league worst for 5.2 allowed per game. So
Absolutely,
that's
I'm
insane.
I'm talking season.
Oh yeah, you're talking
average.
Season.
Yeah,
but even the last 3 games, they're even worse, which is crazy.
Yeah, and so that's that. I think that Michael Davis is a problem because if you like, everybody knows they benched Benjamin St-Juste. When Lattimore went out, typically in the past, St-Juste has been Lattimore's replacement. St-Juste has been bad himself, and so Michael Davis got a shot to step in. Was horrible. I don't know what Lattimore. It looks like he's probably going to be out again. I mean, he was DNP on Wednesday for practice this week. I think he at that position is a serious problem, and it showed against the Falcons.
Well, let's be honest. In this game against Dallas, CeeDee Lamb's out anyway, so you don't even need a Lattimore. In terms of having to shut down one of the league's best receivers. I mean, you can kind of
on the injury report though.
Oh yeah, I believe last week he was put on season-ending IR.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yes, I believe so. Yes, and but this game, Drake London had ample opportunities to catch an upwards of almost 14 passes and getting near 200 yards and getting at least 1 touchdown extra because he was open all game long. And Michael Penix just missed him on several throws. And luckily enough, the pressure was getting to Penix and forcing him out of the pocket to where they were forcing him away from where London was and getting to the other side of the field. So, I mean, obviously it all works in the whole grand scheme of things and everything. You get the pressure on the quarterback, but some of them passes, there was one overthrow to London that would have gotten him at least 30+ yard downfield. There was
that
another
one was on Penix, the one you're talking about.
Right. So it's the secondary, the corners primarily are just really god awful.
Yes. Yeah, and Lamb is on. You're right. I didn't realize Lamb was on IR. So that does make it certainly better for Washington. Dallas, we'll get to that. We'll get to Dallas when we get to him.
Yeah.
Look, Atlanta is a potential playoff team. Washington's defense did not look good. Jane Daniels bailed them out. It's not a recipe for long-term success, and I don't think that. I think there's going to be a downfall of this team. It's going to be especially the run game, but also some of these matchups in the defensive backfield. And if Lattimore can't stay on the field, I don't know if he's. I didn't notice if his hamstring injury this time is the same one as before, or if it's his other leg.
It's the same leg.
Same leg. Okay.
Yeah.
So he truthfully, he probably ought to just be done for the year. Honestly.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, it may be better for him to, just heal. But if you do that, then they're stuck with this. That's the problem.
Oh, I guess the one silver lining to all this is that right now but Adam Peters is really seeing all the true holes and weaknesses going into an off season, to where he could fix a lot of them right away between the cap and the draft, or in our free agency and the draft. So even though, it's been a great year, on the verge of getting possibly 12 wins, 6 seed. I think the Rams would probably be their best matchup going into the playoffs, first round. Anything after this is just icing on the cake to me. I'm not saying that I want that. I don't care if they lose or not. Obviously, I want them to win, but right now, Adam Peters is being given a blueprint of what he needs to do in the offseason and to get this thing going before we get anywhere near to the end of Jaden Daniels' rookie contract. So, yeah, their secondary's got a lot of holes. Their run game's got a lot of holes. Their defense has got plenty of holes, especially on that defensive line. But you know what? Quite honestly, I'm glad that we're seeing them stand out the way that they are right now, consistently, because then we know what direction we can go going forward. So, if there's any silver line to this defense, it's that.
That's not a silver lining.
Oh, but I can't think of anything else positive. Sure. Frankie Louvu's been great for us this year.
About it.
I know, but we all know what their defense is. We don't have to sit there and harp too much on.
The defense is going to be their downfall against playoff teams. Let's just say. All right.
Oh yeah.
So let's move out. I think we're done with this game. So let's do game balls and move on here. I'll go for you. Went first last time. I won't go first this time. Clearly, Jane Daniels. Clearly, Jane Daniels is the offensive guy. Has the offensive game ball. Defense is a lot harder. To be honest, I don't think any of them really deserve a game ball. I'll give it to Quan Martin, I guess. Led the team in tackles and had 2 pass defenses, so he gets it by default. And it's only because I couldn't think of a better answer.
Offensively, obviously, yeah, you got to give it to Jaden Daniels. He's just been this offense pretty much. But I'll give the defensive side to Jeremy Chin. He had a crucial game breakup late in the fourth quarter against Drake London. Oh no, Darnell Mooney, I think it was actually. He tried the ball on 3rd down and long, so he kind of prevented that one drive from going. So, he's been pretty big for us on the most part defensively, and I think he's going to be a guy that they definitely re-sign after this year.
All right. Those are the game balls. Because Washington won this game, they had a clinched playoff spot. Currently, they're in the number 6 seed. The number 5 seed is going to either be, meaning the first wild card is either going to be Detroit or Minnesota, and they're both those teams are 14-2. There's no question about that. Green Bay is 11-5. Washington is 11-5. So they are going to be the 6 and 7 seeds in some combination. Now, what's important here is that Washington and Green Bay have not played this year, and so the tiebreaker is going to be conference record. Packers are 6-5 in the NFC. And Washington's 2 games better than them in the NFC. They're 8-3. So that means if Washington beats Dallas, they will be the 6th seed no matter what.
Right.
the only way that Green Bay can overtake them is if Washington loses and Green Bay wins. And which could happen. I mean, Washington got smoked by the Cowboys, and the Packers are playing the Bears, who suck. So, and now, reason why that is important is that Philadelphia is very, very likely to be the number 2 seed.
And they're locked in no matter what.
Are they locked in no matter what? Okay,
yeah, no matter
right.
what.
So
yeah.
they're locked in. All right. So Philadelphia's 2 seed. That's a much tougher road to hoe than the number. The way it goes is 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. Okay, and so the number 6 seed will play the 3 seed. Will play the 3 seed. That is going to either be some combination of Tampa, the Rams, Seattle, or Seattle. One of those 3 teams is almost certainly going to be the 6 seed. Right now, it's the Rams.
Well, I think the Rams have the division sewn up.
I don't believe that's the case. Let's confirm.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The Rams they show Seattle eliminated, and the Rams are clearly the division winner.
Seattle's eliminated?
Yes. So it can only be either Tampa Bay. They're going to be Tampa Bay, Atlanta, or the Rams. It would be one of those 2 teams they would face as a 6 seed.
Okay. Any of those teams are infinitely preferable to the Eagles.
Correct.
And so this is actually very important that Washington win this game. But that is the playoff situation that Washington's in. It's win and they've got Tampa, Atlanta, or the Rams. Lose and they have Philadelphia. And raise your hand if you want to play the Eagles for a 3rd time in the year. Now, I don't know if Jalen Hurts will be back or not, but either way, that's much worse in Philadelphia, much worse. So that's the situation. Did I mess anything else up?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that is the playoff situation. All right. So this leads to the Dallas game. Dallas has a ton of injuries. What are let's start with just your general thoughts on the Dallas game.
I mean, they have no run game. They're out CeeDee Lamb. I think the one thing that they'll understand from the last game into this game is the fact that you can't underestimate what Cooper Rush can do. And he's an adequate quarterback, and he will kill you if you don't put pressure on him. Well, he's not going to kill you, but he will make enough plays. And I think they've learned from that from the last game. They're not going to let Cooper Rush do much of anything in this game. I think they're going to apply a ton of pressure, especially with CeeDee Lamb out. I don't think they're going to worry about the run game. I think right now they're focused on locking in that 6 seed, and Dallas just doesn't have much to push back against them, even defensively right now. Because even I think Micah Parsons, he actually battled a little bit of injuries coming in this game too, I think.
And Trayvon Diggs is on IR. That is Trayvon Diggs is the guy who faces up to Terry McLaurin and has at times gotten the better of Terry McLaurin. And as a matter of fact, in the last game in Week 12, like I said, other than the 86-yard reception, he held McLaurin for something like 5 receptions for 20 yards, something in that neighborhood. And the idea that both Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb are out, obviously along with their quarterback, Dallas is hurting. However, it's still Dallas. Never forget that Dallas handled Washington in Week 12.
Right.
Handled them. So what I think here is, I think Washington, and it looks to me like from what I saw, and you follow it closer than I do, but look like Washington is not going to sit starters this week. That's sort of what the sense I got, and that's point number 1 is don't take the week off. It's not done. It mattered. This game matters, and so the coaching staff has to keep the players in the mindset that this game matters and continue to play like their lives depended on it.
Right.
That's number 1. Number 2, these are my keys to the game, by the way, because I didn't say that. Eliminate the turnovers, limit mistakes and penalties. Penalties have been killing this team. they don't have, if you read we do a penalty column every week. Um, and they are not at the top of the league in terms of number of penalties. They're kind of in the middle, but they've gotten penalties at horrible times.
Oh yeah.
And they're doing horrible, stupid things. And in like Sam Cosmi's gotten like 100 penalties,
Mm-hmm.
a zillion penalties this year. And he got like two of them, two holding calls in the Falcons game. I thought one of them was ticky tacky. One of them
Yeah,
wasn't.
I agree.
Yeah. But, they need to limit penalties, limit mistakes. That's point two. And then the third thing, no surprise here, they have to find a non-Jade Daniels running game. Dallas is a team that stinks against the run. They're as bad as Washington against the run, and that's saying a lot.
Right.
We're going to get to Austin Eckler here in a minute, but Washington needs to figure out some way to get a running game going that is not Jade Daniels, particularly with Micah Parsons hovering around out there. Micah Parsons is maybe the best middle linebacker in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly one of the top 2 or 3, probably.
Right.
I think if they can do those 3 things, then they really ought to win this game. What are your thoughts?
I'll put this when you go to the run game, keep an eye on Chris Rodriguez. If they give him a lot of carries in this game, almost to a point where they're almost featuring him, you got to wonder if maybe they're kind of seeing what they have in him and what he can give in that run game. Because Brian Robinson Jr. has just been, whether he's still bad on injury, whatever it is, he's been more down than he has been up right now in recent months. Chris Rodriguez is more of a natural runner. He's a guy that can take and stretch the ball to the outside. And he seems like he's a better blocker. I don't know what you think about that in the passing game. It looks like he picks up the blitz a lot more naturally than what Brian Robinson
He's more
does.
physical about it, too.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of I don't know, I don't want to say showcase, but almost like a tryout of sorts in a way on who may potentially be the lead guy in the playoffs with Eckler if Eckler does return.
Yes, and I think this is even more important this week, because not only is Dallas bad against the run, but they blitz the heck out of quarterbacks. They pressure the heck out of quarterbacks. They are the number 1 team in the NFL on pressure percentage, which is adding up the sacks, the hurries, and the knockdowns. They've got 46 sacks on the year. That's 5th. Hurry percentage, they're number 1 in the NFL in hurry percentage. They're 7th in the NFL in blitz percentage, meaning the percentage of times they blitz. Number 1, I already said hurry. Number 1 in press percentage. So there's going to be a lot of people in Jaden Daniels' face throughout this game. Now, Dallas is a lot less successful in actually preventing passing from happening. Like opposing quarterbacks are averaging rating of 99. But I don't really want to take this chance personally. I think this ought to be a game that they lean on. Pick your running back coaches. If it's Robinson, McNichols, Rodriguez, somebody, I do not want to see Jaden Daniels get sacked 6 times and knocked down 3 times and 2 interceptions and have to have, some big comeback game and all that. We don't need that. And so I think this is a game that Washington needs to run a lot, run early, figure out who can do it. If there's a team you can run against, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Do not let them continually, blitz the heck out of, people. They have a lot of sacks. It's a lot of sacks. If you want some numbers here, Micah Parsons, 9.5 sacks. I always don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Osa Adigzua, he's got 4. Donovan Wilson, 3.5. DeMarvion Overshawn, 5. There's a lot of people that get a lot of sacks, and so if there was ever a game to run on, this is it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, like offensively or defensively rather, Cooper Rush is still the quarterback. He's a decent backup. They are down Trayvon Diggs, or CeeDee Lamb, as we said. CeeDee Lamb is Mr. Do Everything for Dallas. It's a major loss to not have him out there. And so you have to think then, who's their backup, their next go-to guy out of this. I mean, Ferguson, the tight end, maybe. But then you've got Kevontae Turpin, and is maybe the next guy up statistically, way behind. CD Lamb had 101 receptions. Ferguson's next, 57. And then you've got Jalen I guess Tolbert's probably next up, 45 receptions, 512 yards. None of those guys scare me like Lamb does.
The only thing to worry about Tolbert is that he is a guy that's physical off the line, and he got speed to get downfield. And against our corners, he's going to be open a lot going downfield. And so we have to put pressure on Cooper Rush to allow him to get off schedule. So those routes going deep don't have enough time to materialize.
But as is the case with Washington, if I were Dallas, I would say establish a run game.
Yeah.
A lot in early. Washington stinks against the run. They've stunk for you mentioned they've been absolutely horrible in the past 3 weeks. What do you average 5.2 yards per carry? I think you said in the past 3 weeks. Rico Dowdle got over 1,000 yards. He's averaging more than 4.5 yards a carry, 4.7 on the season. Lean on that guy. Make Washington stop you. And so I think from Washington's perspective, that's what they need to focus on. They need to pressure Cooper Rush, but if they're going to spend time doing something, it needs to be stopping the run. They need to figure out how to do that one way or the other. They're going to need to do it in the playoffs, and they can't. So that's what I think. Let Cooper Rush beat you with the likes of Jalen Tolbert and Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
Let that happen. If you can stop their run, I think Washington will be a lot better off.
Right. I agree.
All right. What else? Are we up to predictions here? You can go first on the predictions.
I'll say that Washington will go in, handle business, and win 34-17.
All right. I wrote down in my report, I said 31-27. So I think it'll be a little closer because I just can't get over the past that they died a ugly death in week 12.
Yeah, but that was also with CD Lamb, though.
I get it. But it's still Dallas. I get you. And it's a road game on time. Is it not a road game?
Yeah, it's in Dallas.
It's a road game. Yeah. So can't be.
But Dallas has been horrendous at home the last couple of years. They've been terrible. And when you don't have CeeDee Lamb on the field, that's one huge weapon you don't account for. That means they can keep Chin in the box more for against the run. They can do a lot more in terms of up at the line of scrimmage to defend the run and put pressure on Cooper Rush. That's why I don't see the game being.
They're 2-6 at home, by the way, this year. It's Dallas. I can't get past it. So 31-27. We'll see who's right. Okay. Excuse me. I think one topic that we can't avoid here, we need to address, is Austin Eckler, who is apparently going to be back.
Yes.
And so then the question becomes what to do. Now, everybody, if you remember, Chris Rodriguez was actually a practice squad player at the beginning of the season in favor of Jeremy McNichols and Austin Eckler, because Robinson obviously was going to be the starter for right or for wrong. So when Eckler is back, they will need to make a roster move somehow, some way. Probably. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Should they keep 4 running backs and move somebody else, or are they going to cut Rodriguez? I think if you put Rodriguez back on the practice squad, that guy'd be gone in an instant. So what do you do?
Well, I think they can't afford to put Rodriguez down right now anyway, because he's been one of their more effective running backs for the last few weeks. Jeremy
4.9 yards per carry.
Yeah. And Jerry McNichols is a good short yardage guy. He's good on blocking in the passing game, but he's also been a special teams guy. He's been filling in pretty well with that back there too as well. So, I mean, to me, you almost have to go in with 4 running backs. I think you would just have to wind up going down one receiver on that account then maybe. I'm not sure. I can't. So, but Jay, you don't want to But that's the thing, though. You want Crowder to stay in there. Obviously, is the case. And I don't know which receiver you would even drop down.
Well, I do because they actually picked up KJ Osborne off of waivers this week. That was another roster move they made. And so now they actually have 6 receivers on the roster: De'Ami Brown, Jameson Crowder, Luke McCaffrey, Terry McLaurin, KJ Osborne, Olmi Zaccheaus. So, McLaurin, Zaccheaus, McCaffrey, those guys aren't going anywhere.
Right.
And probably realistically, De'Ami Brown also probably not going anywhere. So they only want to be Crowder, but Crowder has been returning punts, if I recall, has he not?
Yes, he has.
Yeah. So you think, they picked up Osborne, but if they need to make a move for a skill position guy, it may be Osborne in favor of Austin Eckler.
See, it's crazy. I think they actually like Osborne, though.
I mean, I'm sure they do, but you can only have 53 players on the roster.
No, you're right. You're right. That's going to be tough.
Because actually, I updated the our roster page and salary cap page today, and I did that prior to them making another move. I didn't even realize they hadn't made the move when I updated. That's not true. I was trying to make myself aggrandize, but I didn't realize they had signed a tackle today. Did you know this? Max Percher, who I've never heard of him. This is courtesy of Ben Standig. The C Words signed offensive tackle Max Percher today, developed through the International Pathway Program. He's been on practice squads for 3 teams, including the Seahawks. So he is apparently signed to the active roster. Didn't know that. And so that's another move. So there's going to be 2 moves they need to make here to make room for that guy. And Austin Eckler. They have to, either way, they have to get Eckler back on the field, one way or the other. I just don't think they can afford to dump Chris Rodriguez or McNichols. So It leads me to believe it's Osborne and somebody, maybe a defender.
Oh, a corner they could do with that, because Lord knows they probably better off going with just 10 men on the field half the time.
Well, okay, but who's that going to be? Okay, so your corners in alphabetical order: Michael Davis, Noah Igbenogany, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sandersill, Benjamin St. Juste. So off limits are Sandersill and Lattimore, probably Igbenogany also. Michael Davis has sucked. Benjamin St. Juste has sucked. So you could hypothetically get rid of one of them and go with 5 corners. That would be one. They also have a truckload of safeties. They have a lot of safeties. They've got 7 safeties: Percy Butler, Jeremy Chin, Derek Forrest, Dominique Hampton, Quan Martin, Tyler Owens, Jeremy Reeves. I think all of those guys are probably more valuable than their corners, than the back end corners.
Especially with Quan Martin. He wasn't a great corner, but he's a guy that if you need help, he could slide up into like the slot or something like that if need be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Jeremy Reeves obviously is the special team star. Jeremy Chin has been a critical piece of the team. I mean, Percy Butler has stunk at times. Dominique Hampton, I've not heard his name one time entire year, so maybe he's one they could maybe go. Tyler Owens has had his moments. Yeah. So of that group, maybe Dominique Hampton. So if they have to get rid of a second player, maybe Michael Davis, Benjamin St. Juste, or Dominique Hampton. Yeah. So there you go. But that's Austin Eckler. So either way, look for him to be back. If not this week, certainly in time for the playoffs. Because I believe he's in that 21-day window. Is he not?
Yeah, he is. And I can almost guarantee they're not going to risk bringing him back this week. I mean, there's no point in doing it this week.
Probably so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We are running out of time here, but we do have a couple of more things we want to talk about. You brought up a tweet from Charlie Campbell from Ultra Football. Dave, you want to go over that?
Yeah, let me bring that back up again.
Okay, while he's doing that, so Charlie Campbell's writing a little bit about potential coaching and front office moves, and he had thrown a rumor out there about Washington, and that's what Dave's about to read. Or if he's having trouble, I'm going to keep vamping. I'm going to read it myself. If you can't find it, you better hurry. Trying to give you credit for finding it. All right.
I got you. Charlie Campbell, who is through Walter Football. The one thing, he's talking primarily off the Bears and rumors for a head coaching position. And there were a couple points that he had brought up. One, Obviously the Lions OC Ben Johnson is going to be hot for a job again this year. I mean, why wouldn't he be, right? But the talk that he's been hearing is Ryan Poles, their general manager there in Chicago, has reservations on bringing in Ben Johnson because that may wind up creating an effect of Ben Johnson may want to have our assistant general manager, Lance Newmark, to come in as a general manager in Chicago. And if that's the case, obviously that would mean that Ryan Poles is out of a job. So the talk is that Ryan Poles may kind of look in a different direction for a coach if it means preserving his job. So now the question here is that a thing that you would appreciate your general manager to do in terms of, well, I'm going to look at job preservation and look past the best coaching candidate? Or should he just simply go, you know what? I'll bring in the best coaching candidate. I'm going to sit here and try to secure my position with him and do the best job I can to get him the players that he needs, and not worry about my job being lost because he may want somebody else. So that's kind of because right now Ryan Poles, now granted, Ryan Poles does have interest apparently in the Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who used to coach, who was a head coach for Miami several years ago. Was a defensive game coordinator for Pittsburgh, and then came to Minnesota as a defensive coordinator. And I mean, he's a really good young coach. He's a bit fiery at times and clashed with some of his players when he was in Miami, but I think he still has an opportunity to become a coach again. So that actually wouldn't be a bad choice. So would you support Ryan Poles supposedly securing his job and going with Flores over Ben Johnson, or you just go ahead and make that move for Ben Johnson and just hope that they don't make that push for a new?
I think you would clearly go for Ben Johnson.
Sure. Yeah.
Brian Flores is kind of a known quantity. Ben Johnson is not. How that relates to Washington, obviously, is, again, according to Charlie Campbell, they want Washington's assistant GM. Clearly, Washington would want to keep the band of brothers together. I think they know that's not going to happen long term. At some point, one of these guys is going to get hired. You got to think about Cliff Kingsbury. For example, would probably be on the list of coaches. But in terms of Newmark, Washington's only option to retain would be to give him some, essentially BS, titles, promotion, and give him more money. That would be the way to keep him.
Well, what you could do is you can have Adam Peters assume the role as president of football operations,
but it's still nonsense. So, okay, it's general manager. It's nonsense.
But at least it's now but now you protect him. The only way the Lions can
I get it. I get it. But yeah, that's how. But it's nonsense. And so if Newmark would really want more legitimate responsibility and authority, he would move.
Sure.
Now I don't think the Lions necessarily are
the Bears.
The Bears are necessarily a team that's going to spend a ton of money on coaches and stuff. They're not really known for that, to the best of my knowledge. So it may or may not happen. We'll see. That's just one little rumor we wanted to throw out there. And
now, real quick, when you mentioned Cliff Kingsbury, which obviously would potentially be a candidate, right now he is being paid. He's one of the highest paid coordinators by Washington. Plus, he's still being paid by Arizona through 2027. I mean, granted, every coordinator wants to be a head coach, but the situation he's in right now, being successful with Jaden Daniels, he's reestablishing, he's remaking his image right now from what it was previously in Arizona. Why would he want to leave after year one anyway? The money-wise, not an issue. He could be successful by growing Jaden Daniels one more year and then waiting for that third year. I would almost think that Cliff Kingsbury would take his name out of the running for head coaches and just wait. To be honest, that's what Ben Johnson's done, and that's what other offensive coordinators have done. And besides, if Caleb Williams really is that potential head case that most people think, and you look at the front office system that Chicago has been under right now for the better part of the last 5 years, Ryan Poles could be almost on his way out within a year or two. Does Cliff Kingsbury want to go in the situation that's potentially that volatile over the next year or two? Or just wait for a situation where maybe in 2 years they clean house in Chicago. Ryan Poles is now out. And then now they turn around and go, well, since he's out, unless they give for Ben Johnson, they have somebody else. New general manager may come knocking on the door of Cliff Kingsbury then.
You're
Or something
spoken
like
like
that.
someone who's trying to wish that into existence. I think
Oh,
you're underestimating the enormous, humongous Trump level ego of NFL coaches.
I get you.
And so I think I hear what you're saying, but I also think you're trying to wish it into existence.
A little bit.
Yeah, and so
And
you
let's
cannot
be
underestimate the idea that
I,
Kingsbury would want to become a head coach again, and if he gets an opportunity with a guy he knows, Caleb Williams, he knows him, coached him
right,
at USC, helped the guy win a Heisman at
right.
USC. Um,
And now this is me. I'm at a 180 position now because in the offseason, I was skeptical of Kingsbury. Even after the first few weeks, I was still holding on to my skepticism because I wanted to see other things happen. Now I've gotten to the point where it's like I don't want to see him go. At
I
least
get it,
one more year, you know.
but I think
So
the nonpartisan in this would say you got to think Cliff Kingsbury would be on the top of everybody's list, and
no, yeah,
I
you're
think
right about that. Sure.
the ego of a guy like that would say he might jump. Now, again, you're right about the money. I mean, somebody have to pay him a truckload of money because he's already
Yeah.
making a truckload of money. Yeah, I get it. Okay, one last thing, and we're out of time here. I just wanted to mention this. Um, Aaron Rodgers mentioned this week that it could be his last NFL game or last NFL. Next week could be his last NFL game. Obviously, it's been a nightmare for him in the with the Jets, and everybody who's not Aaron Rodgers should have known it was going to be a nightmare because the Jets are a nightmare.
Right.
But the guy has been one of the best quarterbacks ever. He had the very unenviable position of replacing Brett Favre. I wouldn't say he did it with class, but he did it.
Right.
He's been a very difficult and weird dude at times, and he was treated Jordan Love horribly in Green Bay. So I wouldn't give him credit for that, but I would give him credit for being, irrespective of his personal characteristics, one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. And so if this is the end for him, and I think it probably should be, if I were him, I would retire. And so congrats to him. He's
Right.
got career quarterback rating of 102.6. It's just ridiculous what this guy has
Right.
done.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's time the Jets is kind of, I don't want to say tarnish his career legacy, but I think it definitely didn't give any kind of gold star in his career on that one.
Last year didn't hurt him because he was hurt.
Right.
This year, it's not been good. And
No.
it definitely has hurt him. And it's weird how his career really mirrored what happened to Brett Favre in many ways.
Right.
Because when he was drafted, Favre got his shorts all in a wad, left, hurt his legacy with two different teams, with the Vikings and who else did he go to? I've forgotten. Doesn't matter. Vikings and somebody.
The Jets. He went to
Yeah,
the Jets as well.
Jets. Yeah, it was the Jets. And if I were Rodgers, I wouldn't want to float around. This is enough. It didn't work. He's been playing forever. Almost 20 years, 19 years.
Right.
Hang it up. And so if this is it next week, best of luck to you, Favre or Rodgers. And it's been fun. So there you go.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. That's it for this week. We will be back next week, and we will preview a playoff game of some way, shape, or fashion with Washington against somebody on the road. So until then, we will see you
Later.